I notice about water and observing water. It's just like it's always there, and especially this piece that I want to talk about is water looking through two pebbles on the left side and green shadow coming into it. And the right side is maybe coming from sunset time. The red is the door, and door opening to the water.
Kumi, I think she invented, being an architect, she invented a very special way of pulling her imagery together. Having the same size plates, she can layer things, she can recreate things with plates that she already owns.
I enjoy making initial pattern on this copper plate. It's like a mirror finish, shining. You can reflect your face. It's like white canvas. It is really scary, but overcome that kind of a scared condition. You just have to be in the moment. You do some kind of brush strokes or whatever you do, and then other funny thing is just accept that moment. And then I work on many different copper plates and many different strokes and many different scratches, and then overlap those images to create a final image is kind of thing what I do.
Printmaking is a very demanding medium technologically, and many people study it in college and then never do it again. And it's very difficult for an artist who has their own language to translate it into etching on their own, because it is difficult. There's a lot of processes you have to go through. So that's my job with Kumi, is to facilitate the making of her prints by doing the technical things that need to be done to make the process work for her and make it able for her to express herself in the medium.
Well, this is the thing that you have to understand, the addiction to this moment. That when you peel off the print off the plate, that moment of peeling the paper off the copper plate is just like the most greatest moment.
When I'm creating visual pieces, whether I am painting or printing, I feel a strong desire to reach some place, maybe I can call it home, where I am allowed to feel shamelessly nostalgic. This home is a place where an accumulation of different memories is stored. I try to reach over to that place. The memories are shapeless, wordless, and blurry. They belong to the universe. They are millions of years old. All kinds of nostalgia are accumulated there and are free to be shamelessly beautiful, like constellations in a moonless night on a remote island. The inspirations I receive from observing nature are humbling. I live in one of the most beautiful spots in North America. Lakes, woods, gorges, blossoms, leaves, trees, bugs, animals, birds, and seasonal changes. The winter is long. Typically, we can't wait for spring. Nonetheless, one winter, I found myself fascinated by the trees in the woods, dead weeds against the bright whiteness of snow. I did not want winter to end. This was unusual for me, but I was grateful to nature for giving me inspiration.
I always thought, and this is one of the things I have been doing, carrying my work to Europe and other part of the United States, to Japan, is to be in a public collection. That's what I want to do, and I have been making my own little efforts. Why is that important? Because it's paper, perishable material. If it's in a public collections, it may have a chance to survive a little bit longer.
My introduction to Kumi Korf is this complicated, revealing, doors opening, windows opening, secrets contained experience of looking through Silken Secrecy. And I loved the book, and I've taught with that book ever since because of this experience in part, but also because it was a book that was constructed to be revealing as I went through, and it worked well with the text, all to get to this moment of these scrolls wrapped up in silk thread that clearly had something in there. And I used to always end my presentation with this book of, are you curious as to what's here? Should we tear it open? And then would close the book and leave it at that. Kumi's prints are both an important aspect of her own Japanese background and their qualities, but they're being done in a very modern American way in terms of how they're incorporated into the book, how they're utilized as color, how they're utilized as a segment of a page, especially in Amphora and the Fish, when we begin to look at the page turns and we see this kind of quilt of image where the print itself is inviting you to go to the next page, but the design of the page itself is keeping you in the story. And because her prints are large and broken up, they have an abstract level to them that reads as a very modern American book. And so it documents the book arts movement in America on many different levels. Printmaking, the contribution of a Japanese background and the culture that comes with that as it gets incorporated into the American experience. So I'm going to walk us through the Amphora and a Fish pretty much the way that I walked through when I was doing this with Kumi. It comes in a very traditional Japanese-styled box, and I'm immediately confronted with Kumi's print work. It takes a while of working with the book to realize that actually this part is movable, but best viewed lying flat. So the title suggests that we're going to be reading something about a jar, an amphora, and a fish. And in fact, we already have this sort of fabulous graphic representation of that fish-shaped jar with its scales. This is what makes this book Kumi's book, because we have this explosion of color, textures, and print. Many of these are the calligraphic prints of Kumi, but they're also referring to the scales of the fish, and then the beginning of the story, which is in fact a dream. The structure is unlike anything else you can find. In some cases, these Kumi Korf books, thin, a few page turns and you're done, are extremely complicated and very rich. And because of that, she's very appealing as a bookmaker to me. And I feel they're good representations of a certain kind of work that's being done in America. So that's why her particular books have been added to the Library of Congress, because they stand as very strong examples of that.
The class is called Hidden Books, Architectural Play. So this is the example. This is my I wouldn't say the most recent work, but recent enough. Hole in My Heart is the title. And what it can do is different kind of positions. This is the architecture play pot. Just leave it like like this, the corners, and becomes a little temple-like. And if it goes the other side, it can go like that. And hiding here is the hiding part. Hidden books is like, here's the books. And then there's 4 little books hiding here. There's a poem by really old Japanese women poet. They lived 9th century, 10th century, 2 of them the 13th century. And it's all kind of sad love songs. Because I have the hole in the center, that this structure can work. Without it, it won't work. So sometimes we have kind of sadness in your heart, although in these cases, the women made poems. This would be a good thing that maybe since 4 of us here, like this right now, can you read each the one poem inside find a book, okay, and then read it.
Clouds come to cover the moon. When I see it, I feel so sad. It reminds me of my love's image.
All right, so we get to work. Let's see. This paper, the chili paper, I have that for you here. When the time comes, it is all ready to go. And then, these are for the booklet part, so I don't have to do that right now. This looks like this, I don't know about this one. I think it will be okay. Otherwise, I'm not slippery. I think childhood memory is important. I was a little girl of, I don't know, 3rd, 4th grade, and then made this little piece of paper as a landscape painting. There's a little stream in the front of the house, and I was somehow interested in making pigment. It was probably rock, and I rubbed against something, and since there was a stream there, and I made this kind of like a watercolor-like. And that went on to the piece of paper, yay size. And then there was other kind of rock or dirt or earth, and then made darker brown. And I thought about grass can also have a juice, and then that went on to this. I thought it was a kind of landscape painting I did, and tiny little thing, but using those natural materials, it's the era that everybody didn't have everything that people have now. This is a new development at the edge of Tokyo, the town called Koiwa. And my parents, when they got married, they must have looked for the place to live. So it was like this. There was a river. Maybe I should say it looked like a river when I was little, but this is like just a stream. I'm sure it is non-existing right now. And okay, there was a little street here, passageway, my parents' house, and there was another house, exactly the same kind, and then there was a little passageway or a little width in between, and then there was another house go like this. And then back side of the house here, this is all rice paddies, rice paddies like this. And then here it's all rice paddies too. And there was a little kind of like a passageway like this. So this is my position when my parents' house was. 困ったことなんですけれども、私の祖母が病気だったんですね。それがまたただの病気。
The most tragic event in my childhood was my younger sister Noriko's death. My mother Yoko's recent death was easier to accept because she lived a full life. Her death triggered and recalled my deep lamentation regarding Noriko's death. Immediately, my thoughts flew back to the time when I was 6.5 years old, and Noriko was a mere 3.5. She was a victim of the 1943 summer typhoid fever epidemic. It was my first vacation after entering grade school. I was very pleased and excited to take a train trip with my family to Uozu, where my father came from. Grandparents and cousins, beaches, pine trees, fishing boats, and an aquarium. I loved the fishing port alongside the Japan Sea. It was only when we arrived that we learned our grandmother was ill. Much later, we found out that she had typhoid fever. In fact, we had landed in the middle of an epidemic. Why didn't we pack up and leave right away? I imagine this thought crossed my parents' minds many times afterwards. I have a vivid memory of a dark night at the beach. My mother and I stood at the water's edge, bare feet in the sand. The roaring and pounding of the waves were not far from us. The tips of the rising waves looked like gnashing white fangs coming at me. Suddenly, I almost lost my balance in the strong undertow that pulled me towards the waves. I clung to my mother's hand.
water looking through two pebbles on the left side, and the green shadow coming into it. The right side is maybe coming from sunset time. The red is the door opening to the water.
Some of my memories, both visual and emotional, involve texture, light, air, and space. These memories are from my childhood, and they are infused with delight and sadness. They are treasures in my storehouse of sensory indexes.
Once a long time ago, Ian asked me, I think he was a little kid though, he asked me, when did you decide to be an artist, Mom, kind of thing? I said, I saw the scene of sunset. The color was just so beautiful. I had to take out my watercolor to just emulate that color. And that's when it started. Even though before I was doing things with my watercolors or pencils and so forth, but I think that was an important moment that there was this sunset and I tried to do the work, and I think that was kind of a turning point maybe. The book was written by Rainer Maria Rilke, of the Letters to a Young Poet. One place he writes, don't complain. You don't have, I'm just paraphrasing, you don't have knowledge, or you don't have this and that. Don't complain. Think about it. If you are in a prison and surrounded by prison wall, you have the treasure house of memories. I have made a sculpture book called Treasure House. And I made this box which opens. I see a tooth. It's actually one of my kids' tooth, which has a filling, and it's a molar. And it's a, I don't know, 6 years molar, has a filling, whatever. I thought it's an interesting addition. And this lychee nut comes from the apartment that my friend was renting in Paris. So I collect a few little strange things in my pockets, as if they are my treasures.